Welcome to What Could Go Right, the Awesome Factory podcast. Podcast is like
it's like a podcast and video make baby podcast. So if you're listening to this, it's a podcast. If you're on YouTube, it's a vodcast. All right.
So I am Emily Orton.
I am Eric Orton. We are the co-founders of
The Awesome Factory.
The Awesome Factory.
And today we're asking, why ask what could go right?
Okay, so if you are like me and you and I are like most people, we usually will worry about all the things that could go wrong. We plan for the downside, we build contingencies, we do all kinds of things because we're worried that things are just going to go bad.
We're very responsible.
They're going to go poorly. And that's, it's
good.
I think that's part of being a grown-up, to just be aware and be prepared for bad things to happen. Not knocking that at all. However, if you're like me and most people, we don't often ask the other side, which is what could go right. And since this vodcast is called the What Could Go Right show, whatever, we want to explain that question. And the best way I can think of it is that it's yin and yang. When we ask what can go wrong, we're asking a good question, but we're only asking half of the whole picture. And when we ignore the other half, we're missing out on a lot of the fun, because quite frankly, just preparing for the worst or preparing for the downside is reasonable, but it's not that exciting, not that exciting or that fun. So anyway, we're big believers in the whole picture. And when you open your mind and your heart up to the things that can go right, man, it gets real good. And I would say real good kind of fast.
Well, and also the what could go wrong list, as important as that is, most of those things never happen. Most of the things that we worry about never happen. So make your list and make peace with it, but look at both sides.
All right. Should I share that one example we were talking about earlier?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay. So when we were doing something that felt really out there and crazy for us. And that was, we wanted to go live on a sailboat for a year. And if you've been following us for a while, you know this story really well, so you can fast forward. But if you're kind of new, we'll give you this one little snippet, which is this. We knew nothing about sailing. We knew nothing about boats. Our kids, we took like sailing 101. And when we started to take them out, they would scream because they were so scared when the boat started to tip. And
I was screaming inside because I was scared of deep water. We really had no business being there. Yeah,
we were in way over our heads, as they say. Anyway, so fast forward a few years, we went from knowing nothing to being semi-competent sailors.
And I got in the water.
And Emily got in the water. And we were looking at the possibility of buying a boat. And it was pretty scary because we were going to send the down payment to an offshore account for a sailboat that we'd technically never seen. And we believed it was there. We trusted it was all the things that they said it would be, but we actually had to wire some money. And we came face to face with this question of what could go wrong. So many things could go wrong on this trip. If we did this, we could go broke. We could wreck the boat and sink it. We could get injured or die.
I mean, we could miss our friends. We didn't know what would happen to our apartment while we were gone. We didn't know how we were going to pay for it. We didn't really know if we could actually manage the boat. We'd never really worked with diesel engines or the electronics or the plumbing systems. And
I didn't know if coming back, if I would be able to find work again, because who hires somebody who just takes off for a year? And
our youngest has
Down
syndrome, which is such a benefit in so many ways, but we knew we were going to be missing out on her therapist, and she didn't know how to swim, and there was a lot.
So there was a lot that could go wrong, but then we asked ourselves, what could go right? And it was like a switch just flipped in our brains. And all of a sudden we thought, man, it had never occurred to us to explore this before. And we made this list of what could go right, which included, we could make lifelong memories as a family. We could develop new skills and competencies. We could grow in confidence. We could see extraordinary, beautiful places. We could
super bond. as a family.
Yeah.
Maybe try new foods, learn about new cultures, learn new languages.
Make new friends. Yeah. So all that was just growing. And we said, if we do not do this trip, we are for sure missing out on this. If we do this trip, this short list of negative things might happen.
Probably not.
Probably not. Anyways, we started to weigh what could go right, and which was very likely, against what could go wrong, which was very unlikely. The scales easily tipped in favor of going. And so we're fond of saying that that question is what got us out on this adventure. And continuing to ask it is what kept us out there, in addition to asking what was going right now.
Yeah, I think like for me, the history of that question, it goes way back. Like it's rooted in some really solid principles about that we have lots of choices. And when we first got engaged in 1995, one of the first things because starting to plan a new life together was like stressing us out. And we were like, oh my gosh, like, how are we even going to do this? And we were very much rooted in what could go wrong. And Eric had this idea of like, let's just make a list of all the things that we will have control over no matter what our circumstances are. And one of those things was gratitude. So we decided at that tender age that in our life,
almost 22,
in our life, when we felt discouraged, if we would get grateful and that didn't help, then we would know we were in real trouble. But over the decades, that always did help. And so we would always just look around and say like, what is good right now? What are we grateful for right now? And that gave us the stamina and opened our minds and kind of gave us the courage to keep moving forward. And we started asking it to our kids this way, like, what's awesome about right now? And what could go right is just taking that one step forward and putting it into the future.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, I'm grateful for all these things that happened in the past, or I'm grateful for everything that's happening, all of these things in the present. This was a future casting, like what might be the things that are awesome that I'll be grateful for in the future. And that was a real turning point for us, like you said. And not just for us, like it's been helping other people. We learned so much on our sailing trip. We ended up writing a whole book about it, and we shared a lot of what we
see it right there.
You know, we learned on.
You're watching on YouTube, 7 at Sea. There it is. Sorry.
Yeah, we learned so much on that journey, and as we wrote it out, we realized, oh my gosh, we have a pattern for facing disruption, or for bringing about positive change, or when a transition is happening, how to handle it like very deliberately. And that's why we founded the Awesome Factory, and we started teaching people the things that we've learned about living a meaningful life and kind of taking the reins and having a little more fun.
All right. So what else should we talk about on this first episode? Because this is just kind of like an intro so that we can break the ice and people can get a sense of what.
Well, hopefully the ice is broken. That's it. We broke the ice. Well, if you like stopped now and you just walked away with that question, what could go right? That will take you so far. So I would say, please, we invite you to ask that question.
What do you do for like a YouTube channel? Is it like, comment, and subscribe? Is that we're not really YouTube savvy.
We're brand new here. We're using one of our principles, scouting it out, trying it out, throwing our hat over the fence, and starting something that's gonna just keep getting better and better as we dive into it. But this is a place where if you want to come for positive, uplifting content where, you know, we believe in your potential and your power to make choices. We know it's not always easy, and we'll talk about sometimes the obstacles, the struggles, and maybe some of the fears that come up. We talk about how we mitigate fear. We're going to talk about everything, all the aspects to living a meaningful life. And I think because we're at the age where we have 3 adult children and 2 teens at home, you might be peeking around the corner to see what's ahead for you, or you might have crossed that threshold and be in that phase where you're parenting adult kids, but you still have so much of your own life that you want to live. We'll be addressing all that kind of intentional, deliberate, mindful, cheerful.
Mindful, cheerful. You heard it here.
Mindful, cheerful. This doesn't happen by
awesomeness. mindful, cheerful awesomeness. That's kind of like,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like life, this is a place where you're going to hear the message that life is good and that we have choices, and we're going to try to make the best choices we can with the highest quality information about who we are and what we're capable of.
So in case you stumbled across this podcast, like totally out of the blue, you can follow more of what we're talking about on theawesomefactory.nyc. That's our website.
It's like New York City.
Theawesomefactory.nyc is in New York City. Of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook and all that. And you can always subscribe to our email, because we send notes out, emails out from time to time, and we want to just make your day, we want to make your inbox that much brighter.
Yeah, we alternate weeks, so you'll hear from me, you'll hear from Eric, hear what we're learning, and
yeah, so
encouragement.
So thanks for joining us for this first episode. We hope to, keep in touch and go on a fun journey together. Anything else we should say before we sign off, Miss Emily?
We're only going to get more wonderful.
If this is not your thing, if this is a little bit too rough and tumble for you, just know this is like day one, baby steps. So
what could go right?
What could go right? We figured, just what the heck, let's just give it a go. So anyway, thanks for listening. We look forward to talking with you on future episodes.
Yeah, feel free to leave any comments if there's questions, things you want us to talk about. We're happy to take a look at that. And we really do feel like so many things are going to go right.
What could go right? Thanks so much.